Okay, let's just jump right in. We're going to talk about something pretty wild, how belief itself is being manufactured in this digital age, and how the very rules of what we think is true are being rewritten right under our noses.
So, it all starts with this. A voice from a protest that happened in early 2023 in Oxford, England. Thousands of people were on the streets, absolutely furious about, well, a traffic plan. But if you listen closely, they weren't just angry about traffic cones. They were talking about tyranny.
And that right there, that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth does something so normal, so mundane, as a plan to ease traffic congestion morph into this apocalyptic fight for freedom? What's the playbook here? How do you turn a simple fact into a global fiction?
To really get the playbook, we have to go back to the scene of the crime, so to speak. Let's head back to that protest in Oxford.
So here's the deal. The city council proposed what they called a 15-minute city concept. And on paper, it's about as straightforward as it gets. The idea is to make sure all your daily needs, like groceries, schools, parks, are just a 15-minute walk or bike ride away. Simple, right? But the reaction was anything but simple.
And this is where it gets wild. Look at the massive canyon between what the plan actually was and the story that took hold. On one side, the reality, a convenient city layout, some traffic filters to cut down on jams. On the other side, the narrative that got thousands into the streets, a dark plot for climate lockdowns, a Hunger Games-style system to trap people in zones. The real question is, how do you build a bridge between those two completely different worlds?
Well, it turns out there's a formula. A surprisingly repeatable one, actually. A kind of modern disinformation playbook that's designed to turn boring policy into an existential threat. At the core of this whole thing is something we're going to call rhetorical breakdown. Now, you might remember from school the three classic ways to persuade someone. Ethos, that's your credibility, right? Logos, that's all about logic. And pathos, that's pure emotion. Well, this playbook doesn't just mess with the balance. It flips the whole thing completely upside down.
And it happens in three pretty clear steps. First, you get rid of credible sources. Then, you build a brand new false logic. And finally, you just drown everyone in an overwhelming tidal wave of emotion. Let's walk through them.
So, step one, create an authority vacuum. In the Oxford case, the actual urban planners and city officials, they were dismissed, painted as part of the conspiracy. Their expertise, their ethos, was totally rejected. And who stepped in to fill that void? You guessed it, self-proclaimed researchers on YouTube and influencers on TikTok, whose only real credential was confirming the very fears the audience already had. Okay, so once the real experts are out of the picture, you move to step two. You build this house of cards, a completely false logic. You're not using reason to debate anymore. Nope, you're taking completely unrelated bits and pieces. A pandemic rule from 2020, a random comment from a global summit, a contract for traffic cameras, and you're stringing them all together. It creates the illusion of a deep investigation, a really simple and satisfying story of evil elites versus the people. And there's a fantastic word for this, logotomy. It's language that sounds logical. It has the rhythm and the structure of a real argument, but underneath, it's completely empty. It's a performance of reason, not the real thing. And this fake logic works so well because it's basically hacking our own brains. It taps into a cognitive bias we all have called apophenia. That's just our brain's natural urge to see patterns and connections everywhere, even in totally random stuff. This playbook weaponizes that tendency on a massive scale. And that brings us to the final step, the knockout punch. Once you've got your simple enemy and your fake logic, you just pour on the emotion. Visceral fear, righteous anger. And this is where social media algorithms become the ultimate accelerant. They are literally designed to promote high-emotion content. So a post screaming, "This is tyranny," is going to spread like wildfire, way faster than a calm, factual explanation. It creates this vicious feedback loop of outrage that just keeps feeding itself.
Now, as new and digital as this all feels, the ideas powering it are anything but. The tools are new, the algorithms, the platforms, but the ghosts in the machine, oh, they're centuries old. I mean, political philosophers have been warning us about this stuff for ages. You've got Machiavelli, who said that when it comes to power, appearance often matters way more than reality. The modern echo, a viral video, no matter how fake, feels more real than a peer-reviewed study. Hannah Arendt warned that loneliness makes people incredibly vulnerable to these big, all-explaining stories. Today, online echo chambers create that same isolation. Foucault argued that every society has a regime of truth, the unspoken rules that decide what's considered valid, while today algorithms create their own regime, shaping our reality by curating what we see. And the writer Umberto Eco identified the eternal traits of fascism, like an obsession with a plot and a fear of difference. Both of those are amplified to an insane degree by online extremism.
So, we have an old playbook running on new machines. But what happens when you give those machines a massive upgrade? What happens when you throw artificial intelligence into the mix?
Generative AI is a total game changer. It's a force multiplier for this entire process. It takes every single step of the playbook and makes it cheaper, faster, and much more convincing.
And the shift is just dramatic. Think about propaganda before AI. It was human-intensive, slow to create, and you needed skilled people to do it well. Propaganda with AI, it's automated, it scales instantly, and the skill barrier basically drops to zero. One person with an AI tool can now do the work that used to require an entire disinformation team.
And it does this in a few really potent ways. First is what you could call mimicry of coherence. AI can take the wildest conspiracy theory and write it up in polished, academic-sounding language, giving lies a slick veneer of credibility. Second, overgeneration. It can flood the zone, creating thousands of slightly different versions of the same false story, which makes it look like a grassroots movement. And finally, hallucination. AI models sometimes just make stuff up. They'll fabricate reports, quote scientists who don't even exist, blurring that line between summarizing facts and just inventing fictions.
So, where does this all leave us? This brings us to the final and most important part of this entire story, the battle for reality itself.
This is so much bigger than just fake news. This isn't about people being wrong on the internet. This is about the systematic erosion of the shared set of facts that a functioning democracy needs to even survive. How can we possibly have a debate about climate change or public health if we can't even agree on the basic data?
What we're facing is what some analysts are calling an epistemic crisis, which is really a crisis in how we know what we know. The fundamental battle for what's true has moved. It's no longer in the town square or in newspapers, it's in the algorithmic, chaotic, and increasingly artificial space of the cloud.
And all of this leads to one final, critical question. As AI makes it possible to fake audio, fake video, and fake text perfectly, the old saying, seeing is believing, is basically dead. So when our own eyes and our own ears can no longer be trusted to tell us what is real, what's left? What and who is left to trust?